Good morning. So this is a little yin-yang flow. So we're going to do a little bit of yin up front, and then we're going to do the vinyasa at the end. And I have some props arranged up kind of nearby for when I get to the different portions. So I've got a couple blocks handy. I like to use blocks for all kinds of poses, vinyasa and yin. So they're great. If you don't have yoga blocks though, a couple of throw pillows will take their place in a number of ways. They won't work for certain things, but if you've got some books or you have like some empty Tupperware containers, you can put the lids on and turn them upside down and use those if they're sturdy ones. Or even some, sauce pots from your kitchen will work as yoga blocks if you don't have any yoga blocks. They're just for stability, and if you don't have them, you'll just work it out. So we're going to start with a butterfly pose, and I'm going to start reclining. And so I'm going to use the blocks and I'm going to use these little throw pillows. So I'm going to use the throw pillows under my knee, and I'm going to use the blocks underneath my upper body. So I get a little bit of a chest opening. Now, you could also take a blanket and roll it so that you've got kind of a long roll, and you can put that underneath your spine, and that'll give you a similar effect to what I'm going to get with the blocks, okay? So even just a blanket would work really great. And sometimes I choose the blanket. Today, I want the firmness of the blocks, but that's just a choice I'm making. You can make the other choice. Okay. So I take one block and put it up. So blocks have 3 edges. They've got 4 inches, 6 inches, and 9 inches. And I don't like the really high one. I like the medium one for the high point. Now, some people prefer to go all the way up to the 9-inch mark. I don't. So you can work that out for between you and yourself. So I've got one on the 6-inch height, and then I'm going to put another one just in front of it on the 4-inch height. And again, some people prefer the block to go on the narrow, longer toward their spine. But I have a short back. I don't have a lot of space there. And so for me, the more narrow and wider is a better setting to start with. Okay, so I'm going to put my upper back just above, just below the shoulder blades, about an inch or so below the shoulder blades. That's going to go right here. And then I'm going to adjust this under my head. And then I'm going to use the pillows just to create a little bit of support under the knees for the butterfly shape with the feet together. Okay? So this will take a second for me to find the placement so that I've centered both my shoulder blades. And the block is starting, I can feel the bottom tip of my shoulder blade, and the block is just below that, and that feels pretty good to me. If it's too high or too low, it'll feel pretty crummy. So if you can find that spot that's right, just right. It's not ever a lazy boy recliner. This is not super, it's not uncomfortable, but it's not like ridiculously comfy. I probably would not sleep this way. But it is, it's comfortable enough. And what I like about the blocks is that it's a very firm surface that my body can relax into. So when I use the blocks, I use them for that reason. Now, today my elbows are touching the ground. That doesn't happen every day. So if I have an elbow that's floating, I'll often throw a little blanket or a rolled up towel under my arm so that the arms can relax into the ground. And we're going to stay with this pose for a few minutes, about 3 more minutes. So we're just letting the pose gently release and tune it into the breath. And kind of letting go of the rest of the world for a little while. Just for an hour or so, we're going to be together. Just focused on being present and bringing some sense of steadiness to our physical body and to our mind and to our heart. At least for a little while. So I'm trying to, as I'm breathing, in addition to allowing my abdomen to breathe fully, I'm also trying to create a little bit of space around my rib cage. So sometimes I'll do one breath where I hold the abdomen back just a little bit, just to really get the ribs to expand. And then I'll let the next breath be more natural, kind of drop all the way into the belly. And that just frees some additional space in the muscles around my ribs, in my upper chest, just so I have those later a little more supple. So we're inside that last minute, you guys. We've got 2 more breaths. One go in each direction. All right, so with your exhale, you can bring your knees together first. And then I'm just going to set these little throw pillows off to the side because I'm not going to need those for a while, or at least for a few moments. And then I'm also going to take a few moments to get myself off of these blocks. So I always start with the head block first, and then I roll to my side and grab that other block. Now we're going to come back onto our back just so that we can spend a moment with that shape. Oh. And notice the impact. So if this is good medicine, if it's good for us to use the block, it's going to feel pretty good when we're done, right? If we didn't have the block in the right place or the prop in the right place, or today maybe just we have some extra tenderness in our back or in our arms or shoulders, then we're going to also notice that when we get to this point. And so I like to do these little windshield wiper things with my legs where I go back and forth just to kind of rinse out any pressure from the back of my pelvis, my sacrum. And then it's also kind of nice to rock the upper back a little bit against the floor. Oh. Alrighty, so we're going to bring ourselves to a nice long stretched out position, but before I get there I'm going to give myself one more hug, and then we're going to give ourselves a whole lot of length. So I'm going to wiggle myself into a position where I can stretch through my fingertips and through my toe tips, and then we're going to curve the body into a banana shape. So I've just bent sideways with my spine, both my shoulder blades are still on the floor, both my hips are still on the floor, so I'm not rolling onto my side, and then I just swing my legs over to the side about 50% of the time. And then about 50% of the time it feels really nice to me to cross the outside curve ankle over the inside ankle. And I can even bend this knee to support that. It just gives me a little bit more tug right in this kind of IT band outer hip glutey kind of area. So if you like that, and it's feeling kind of good to me today, so I'm going to keep that. And then you can also like grab one wrist and let that arm come out a little farther over, or you can let the arms get a little softer. It might depend on how your shoulders felt about that last thing, as to how you'll adjust your arms, or even how much room you've got. And so we're just going to let the body get heavy here. And sometimes in a lot of the things we might do during our day, the sides of our body kind of get a little bit neglected. But there's a lot of stabilizing muscle on the sides of our bodies. And so it's not muscle that, like it doesn't lift our thigh up towards our chest, it doesn't swing our leg back behind us, so we are not using it when we walk or run that much, specifically for the locomotion of those. It doesn't, help us climb upstairs or those kinds of things. But what it does is all these muscles stabilize our torso and our legs to our pelvis.
so that we can perform all of those actions. And so while the core muscles and the muscles that kind of live on these outer hip areas aren't necessarily used for kind of the walking mechanics or running mechanics of our kind of daily bipedal lives, they are so important to the stabilization and our ability to stay upright and to maintain good relationship between the pelvis and the legs and the spine. And so it's nice sometimes to really let yourself lengthen out or at least bring some awareness, some attention, some blood flow, some nerve action into the side flanks of the body. We're going to stay for about 30 more seconds here. So sometimes I'll hear yoga teachers say, wake up your muscles. So take a nice big breath, and then we're going to come on back. Let's see if we can figure out what on earth that means. So first, when you come out of the side that we just did, give yourself a moment to just rinse out, and then stretch your legs out for a moment and relax. And then feel your body. And is there a difference between the side that you just did compared to the side you haven't done? It's possible that you won't feel a difference, and there's nothing wrong with that, incidentally. It's possible that all the stuff that I feel is largely a product of my imagination. I'm willing to accept that. Now, for me, it feels like the leg that was on the longer side is longer now than the other leg. It also feels like my hip is closer to the ground. I don't have as much curve under my low back. Usually I have quite an exaggerated low back curve, and it feels a little more neutral. My arm feels a little longer, and this whole side of my body feels slightly more, I don't know what the right word is. The word I tend to use is effervescent. Like, I just feel a little bit like a sense of sort of aliveness. How's that? In the skin and muscle tissue on this side of my body. And probably it's more likely the nerves than I feel on this side. So that's kind of an inkling of what yoga teachers are talking about when they say we're going to wake up a muscle. It means that we're going to do a couple of different things. We're going to pay attention to that area, so we're actually noticing it with our mind. 2, we're going to move that area of the body in a way that creates a situation where the nerves, the blood vessels, the muscle tissue, the fascia, and the joints and ligaments and everything that hold the joints together are also being sort of gently, right, touched or moved. Moved might not be the right word given the fact that we're kind of laying still, but that we're addressing them, right? We're giving sensation, and we're changing the shape. We're changing the relationship that these body parts have to each other normally. Okay, so we're going to do the other side. So what I've done is I've kind of stretched out. I've swung my legs the other way. I've moved my torso the other way. And then I'm going to put that hand right there and see if I like the way that feels. I'm going to go for more of a bent elbow. Okay, so I've just checked in with my body to kind of see, how does the shoulder want to behave today? How does the side of my waist feel? Do I like this crossed over leg? That sort of jazz. Okay. So now I am waking up this side of my body by stretching it out of its normal relationship, by bringing my mind to it, by breathing deeply in a new shape. So now the relationship that my diaphragm has to my lungs and my internal organs is different. And because I'm pulling on tissue, I'm also innervating the nervous system. I am, causing the nerves to fire in a new way or different way. And it's likely that there's also some vascular benefit to just stretching out or moving the blood vessels in these areas as well. I don't know how deep we really get, but I assume at least the ones that are near the surface and that live in the muscles are being gently addressed. And so, if you've ever wondered about some of the nutty things that yoga teachers say, There'll be more. But that's one. So breathe in nice and deep. Noticing a tendency that I have to kind of stretch into. It's just byproduct of the way that I normally practice yoga. So I'm just recognizing that my leg was under some tension and I've relaxed that tension. And so as you're holding poses, just notice, like, are you lifting yourself away from the pose? Are you using muscle that you don't need to use right now? Should you use some muscle? Is your face relaxed? So I'm going to stay for about another 30 seconds. A little bit more. Nice deep breaths. We're going to take a really big inhale. And with your exhale, you're just going to meander back to the center. Oh, and once you get there, you can do a little movement first. And then pause for a moment and see, does it feel like there's an equal kind of sensation, whether it's length or a little kind of bubbly light sensation or whatever you would use to describe it. Is it a little more even? And it might not be. Like, we're asymmetrical creatures. But maybe a little bit more. A little bit closer. Okay. So that's going to kind of end our yin portion today. So we always do yin when the muscle's a little cold so that the connective tissue takes a little more of the load, so we kind of give some hydration and some attention to those areas. Now we're going to get a little bit more movement oriented. So you can rock yourself up and come up to all fours, or you can roll to your side and come up to all fours. Oh, and once you get there, then we're going to do some movement. Okay? Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can approach this with your hands. So if you're on a squishy surface, like I'm on a carpeted surface, and I've got my mat on top of that, so it's pretty squishy. And so if I put my hand where I might normally put it, it puts a lot of pressure on my wrist. So I go a little bit further forward. You may want your hand a little bit further back. Okay, so that's the first option. Then the second option is you can turn the hands different directions, like in and out, or even swing the hand all the way back in order to stretch out your wrist a little bit, okay? And then we're gonna move the torso through some different shapes. So this is a flex spine where my pelvis is tucking under. And then I've got an extended spine where the front of my pelvis is dropping forward, the pelvis is lifting, right? Lifting up. So tilting, if you will. So we're going to do those two shapes. And then you can also, along the way, do like a little bit of a side bending shape. So that you add like a little look over the shoulder, a little look over the shoulder to each of those two shapes. Or you can just stick with the up and down, or you can make even like a circle. So sometimes as I go back into this low back, I'll pull back and give that wrist a stretch. And then let that one go. And do the same thing on the other side. So I might pull back and give that wrist a stretch. And then let that one go. Okay. So we're going to do a little twist in the upper back with kind of a child's pose shape. So you can do this with your hips more over your knees, or you can take your hips back a little farther. So you're going to take one arm, thread it underneath the opposite armpit, and then put that shoulder on the floor. If your head rests too heavy, you can see if you can pull your hips back a little bit, take a little bit of the weight off your head. Now the spare arm you can use, like I'm using it, just kind of press it into the floor. You can wrap it over your back. You can put it under your head if you need a pillow. You need a little place to rest. I like to use it for this purpose, just to hold myself slightly back into the shoulder. So I'm feeling myself almost lean this shoulder backwards by using this arm. And so this little thread the needle, I'm going to move my wrist on the arm that's on the bottom while I'm here, just to lubricate the wrist joint. Oh, holding it for about 3 more breaths. If you want a little extra push, you can use the opposite leg, so right shoulder, left leg, and kind of use the leg to hold yourself. A little more body weight goes onto that shoulder though, so be mindful. And then we're going to bring that all the way out. Once I've got it out, I'm going to move that shoulder a bit. And then I'm going to do a couple rounds of cat, just to notice any differences I feel with that upper part of my back. And oh, this side definitely feels a little different. So let's do the opposite side. So again, kind of deciding how your hips are going to go. Hold on, I've got a little spider on my mat. I have a lot of insects. Spiders are just one of them. Come here, buddy. Come here, buddy. Come here, buddy. There we go. Okay, let's put you up there with the plants. Okay. Oh. Now, I'm going to go this direction. And then you might already be here because you didn't have a spider on your mat. And then so you kind of allow yourself some positioning. Decide whether you want to use the opposite leg to kind of press yourself back into that shoulder a little more. All right, so we're going to take one more breath. Oh, and then bring yourself out of there. And then we'll give that upper back a little attention. A couple of rounds of cat. Oh. All right, so if for whatever reason your wrists are getting a little tired, you can do what we're about to do on your elbows, or you can put a block under each elbow, and that'll give you a little extra support. So we're going to work with the legs a little bit. So I'm going to stretch one leg back, and I'm going to reach through that heel. And then gently I'm going to roll forward and backward over my toes. Press through the heel, forward, and then back over the toes. This just lubricates the surface of like where my Achilles tendon kind of lives there in the calf muscle. And then also lubricates my toe joints. Oh. Okay. So then we're going to take that leg up in the air, take the opposite arm up. Give yourself a long stretch. And again, you can have your elbow on the ground. That'll be okay. It'll be a little tilty. Hug in nice and firm through the sides of the waist. Stretch through your limbs. Good. Take one more breath. And then we're going to bring the knee and the elbow together. Round the back. Inhale, stretch it out. Exhale, bring them closer together. Round your back. Stretch it out. Bring it closer together. Stretch it out. Give it a good reach. And then everything comes down. And then we're going to give that wrist a little rinse. If you're on your elbows, so you may not need the wrist rinse. We're going to do the other side. So tuck the toes, press back through your heel, and then roll forward and backward over your toes a bit. Ooh. 2 more. All right. Now we're going to take that leg up, and then again, kind of find this balanced place. Reach out. Stretch between those 2 points. One more. And then we're going to curl it in and stretch it out. And curl it in and stretch it out. And curl it in and stretch it out. And then lower it down. And then give yourself a moment to rinse out that wrist. Rinse out your back. Oh. And then we're going to come up to downward facing dog. Oh. Before I get there, I'm going to do 2 things.
I'm going to secure my hair, and I'm going to secure the top I'm wearing just a little bit. So you can go to downward dog as soon as it seems appropriate. Okay, so hands are shoulder distance apart. You're gonna tuck your toes under, take your hips back, shake out your neck a little bit, move the shoulders around, and then take your dog for a little walk. Alrighty, yogis, so we're gonna take our feet and walk them to the hands, and it's possible, we're gonna go nice and slow. It's possible that you'll get a point where you can't walk your feet any further forward. And when you hit that point, just shift your weight into your feet and pause, okay? So when you get your feet as close to your hands as they're willing to go, pause there, give everything a little bit of a rinse. Shake out your head a little bit. And then we're gonna come up just to the halfway point. So you're gonna press the hands into the shins or the floor or the thighs and open up and kind of flatten out your upper back. It's not really flat. We're just changing almost to an extension from this flexed state of bending over. So we're going to come back to this bent over position, and then we're going to inhale and open up. And you might be able to straighten your legs out a little bit more on this one. And then when you go into this bent over position, it might be nicer to have a much more bent knee. And so we're going to come all the way out. So we're going to come up to that flat shape and then all the way up to standing. And when you get to the standing position, give yourself a nice big stretch. And then take a moment and shake everything. So shake your arm, and then that arm, and then shake the shoulders out. Give a little shimmy to the hips and the ribs. Shake out one leg, and then the other leg. Okay. And then if you're not already there, you're going to come up to the top edge of your mat, or pretty close to the top edge. And then kind of, make an assessment on how you're going to be able to move in your space. I'm going to go straight down the center like this, so I don't knock into plants. And then we're going to pause and find our mountain pose. So spread the toes wide. And we're going to do a few rounds of this. We're going to lift up onto the tiptoes and come on back down. Lift up onto the tiptoes, come on back down, spread them out. Lift up, and then come down. And now, kind of finding that wide expanse of the toes. And then pressing down a little bit into the surfaces of the edges of the foot. So big toe, little toe. And the heel and the ball of foot. And then don't lock your knees out, so get a little softer at the knee. And feel your pelvis grow like a giant tail, like a kangaroo tail, or a Tyrannosaurus Rex tail, and then set that tail on the ground. So your feet are nice and broad, the pelvis is neutral, and then the upper body is allowed to just suspend out of the pelvis. And so rather than turning the arms out quite sharply, which you can do, you can also just simply allow yourself to trust that your shoulders can fall down your back and that your hands will find a position to be in. And so here we are. So I'm reaching the top of my head up towards the ceiling, but without locking out or losing my neutral curve. Just experiencing that mountain shape. Okay, so we're going to take a nice big breath. Lift up nice and high. Now, we're going to do some traditional sun salutations. So we're going to fold forward, softer in the knee, and then we're going to lift up and step back with the right foot, okay? So this puts us in a lunge. Then we're going to step back into a plank. Now you can do a full plank, legs up, or you can start with the knees down. And we're going to either lower just straight down to the belly or do knees, chest, and chin. Since my knees are already here, I'm going to do knees, chest, and chin. Then we're going to slide the belly onto the floor and come into cobra. Okay, and then coming back into downward dog through the plank. And then we're going to take that right leg up and step it forward, and it steps forward wherever it goes, okay, and look up. So that's that lift in the chest. We're going to keep the chest high as you step forward. Hands can be on your shins or your thighs. Fold. And then come all the way up. And again, determining how you do that based on the positioning of your body in space with your other things around you. Inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale up, that halfway mark, put the hands on the floor. Now this is where blocks really come in handy. So if you've got short arms and the blocks would be helpful, you can stick your blocks in. And then you're going to step back with your left foot and look up, and then set the blocks off to the side and step back with your right foot. And there's your plank, okay? Lowering down our knees, chest, and chin. Coming into your cobra. Coming back to dog. And then we're going to step this foot forward. So we'll take that left leg up, bring it forward, add your blocks if you want to. All right, so you get that lift, step into it, and then fold and come all the way to standing. So it's just a way to use the blocks if you care to. Okay? Let's do one more round on each side. Nice big inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale up, stepping back right. And then left, lowering through your vinyasa, coming into your cobra, and back to your dog. Taking the right leg up, and stepping it forward. Lift, left foot up, stay with that lift. Fold, coming all the way to standing, and then down. And then inhale, exhale, fold. Coming up halfway. Again, stepping back left foot and right foot and lowering down and into your cobra and back into dog. Left foot comes up. Step it forward. Look up. Right foot comes in. Fold all the way to standing, and then finding your mountain pose. I love sun salutations, they're so energizing. All right, yogis, we're going to take ourselves into a chair pose. So you can bring your arms up so that they're parallel with your ears, and then sink into your chair as far as you can maintain that lift. Or you can keep the arms straight out and fold into your chair. Or you can bring your hands to your heart, okay? So it really depends on how the torque of having the arms involved feels. If it causes your neck to hunch up, then move the arms to a different place. Right on? There's no right place for everyone. There's the right place for you today. So we're going to put all the weight into our right leg, and we're going to see if we can take this chair into a 1-foot chair. So we're balancing. And then we're going to try to step this foot back into a high lunge without falling over, which is a feat unto itself some days. And then we're going to take a moment, and you might adjust the arms into a new position. I've been using this mudra a lot, if you're not familiar with it. So I'm going to show it to you. So you put your hands together, lace all the fingers except for the index fingers, and the index fingers stick straight up. And the reason for the mudra, I like to jokingly call it the Charlie's Angels mudra, but the reason for it is that it helps us direct our attention towards kind of being present, and it's kind of like I'm going to release the worries and the doubts and the things in my mind that I can't do anything about. And I'm going to use all my other fingers to create structure and stability for myself. So I'm going to concentrate on the things I have control over and that I can use to empower myself. And I'm going to let go of the other stuff for now. Okay? So that's the mudra. So we're going to take the arms down, and we're going to take ourselves into a warrior 3. So I'm going to take this leg up in the air, and I'm going to try to balance again. Now you can put your arms back out in front of you. You can leave your arms behind you, You can use your arms to help stabilize you so you can really bring this hip down. Reach through the leg, draw in through the sides of the waist, pull this outer hip in to help organize and stabilize you. And then we're going to take this leg right back where we came from and find our mountain pose. Now, I don't know about you guys, but my right leg is a totally different creature than my left. And it's amazing. So find your mountain, just pause for a second, feel the difference. And then we're going to come back to our chair pose. And again, you can do any of the arms. I like to send my hips back so my knees stay more over my ankles than my toes, because that's happier for my knees. And again, how deeply you bend into your chair is up to you. So I'm coming onto the tiptoe, and then I'm going to support my whole body weight with just this left leg. This is so much fun. I love this pose. All right, so then we're going to try to, with control, step back into a high lunge and try not to break a tooth. At least not right now. Good, and then, so now when I do the mudra on this side, I'm going to switch fingers on top, okay? Just so it brings a little different sense to the shape and puts me on notice a little bit. And so I'm just focused on what am I controlling right here. I'm trying to work with my balance. I'm lifting through my pelvis. I'm breathing deeply. Steadying my gaze and my mind. All right. We're going to take 2 more breaths. And then I'm going to let myself take the arms down, lean into this, and take myself to my warrior 3. Okay. And again, if I really want to focus on the hip, then I might use something to hold on to, the wall, a piece of furniture, some blocks. Or I might be focused instead on holding the balance, right? So not using those things. And that's really up to you. Draw in through the hip. So this outer hip is helping to stabilize us. Draw the core in like you're hugging in the sides of your waist. And then 2 more breaths here. I love this work in the outer hip. Take 1 more. And then we're going to bring this back leg in and come back up to our mountain pose. And feel. And does your mountain pose, settle into it the same way. Does your mountain pose have a totally different sense about itself right now? It's delightful. Okay. Take a nice big breath. There might be a little baby back bend. You're going to fold forward. Come up halfway. Exhale, fold. We're going to step back into a plank. Or if you want to hop into Chaturanga Dandasana, you can do that. You can keep the modified knees, chest, and chin into cobra. Or do Chaturanga and up dog, as the case may be for your practice. And then coming back to down dog. We're going to take this right leg up, and we're going to take that leg and just hook it at the knee. All right, and then we're going to bring the knee into the navel and open it out. Into the navel, round your back if you can, open it out, send the heel down. Into the navel, round, open it back. Now lift through that leg and sink into the opposite heel if you can. Circle your foot. Pull through that leg so your weight's coming away from your arms. And then we're going to step this foot forward. And we're going to take this guy into a warrior 2 in a moment. But first, just get your legs adjusted. Okay, so you've got this hip ready to kind of face that direction, this leg facing this direction, and we're just going to go back and forth a little bit. So we're going to go forward into that shape and let this leg straighten out a little bit. And forward, and then let this leg straighten out a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to come to warrior 2. So stabilize through your lower body, bring yourself up. You can add a Hollywood flourish if you want to. Once you get here, just double check you like where your hips have landed. We're going to come back to reverse and come over into a side angle and back to reverse and over into a side angle. Oh, that feels, hold on, that feels good. Back to reverse And then we're going to take this into triangle. So I'm going to straighten out this leg. I'm going to take myself just a little at a time, kind of feeling out the stretch, maybe adding a block so I can create a little bit of structure there. That lets me stretch in. You can use your shin bone too. And I haven't lifted my arm yet because I'm playing with my upper back, okay? So I'm letting the shoulder kind of release and then rolling it open. Letting it release. I might even get juicy in the legs. And then roll it open and then extend your arm and look up. Make sure that the arm follows the line of the shoulder. It's not hyperextending. Unless you want to hyperextend it and then carry on. 2 more breaths here. Good. So then we're going to turn this into a half moon balance. Now to do that, I might wiggle my foot in, or you might be able to simply just shift your weight forward, okay? And working with whatever you got, furniture, small children or pets. See if you can stretch up into that. Now again, lift with this hip. Use the core to stabilize by hugging in the sides of the waist. And it might start you out a little wobbly to kind of do all that muscle action. If you fall, catch with your foot. Take another breath. And then we're going to take this down. But before we get back to downward dog, we're going to come back to this little back and forth movement that we did at the beginning. Now leaning into it a little deeper. And then we'll take it back to down dog. Now you can throw in your vinyasa here, or if you want to follow me, I'm just going to pause and work the legs in my dog and feel the difference. Okay, so you come forward into plank if you like, lower down, do your back bend of choice, and then come back to dog. All right, so we'll take the left leg up. We're going to take that leg and kind of hook it. Then we're going to bring it in, circle it out, sink into this heel, bring it in, circle it out, sink into this heel, bring it in, circle it out, stretch through that leg, sink into this heel, rinse out your neck, circle your ankle, and then we're going to step that thing forward for warrior 2. And again, before we come up, get your feet in place, and then still kind of hunker down in here. We're just going to go back and forth. Just to see how the groins and this hamstring situation is already coming out. Okay, one more time. To the back, and then back into place. Organize your legs. Come up into warrior 2. Make sure you like the way the hips are aligned. And then come on back to your reverse warrior and over to your side angle. Oh, that feels good, yogis. Hopefully it feels as good to you as it does to me. All right, we're gonna go back one more time. Turn that into a reverse triangle. And then inch your way into your triangle pose. And again, like, I don't assume a yoga pose is right where it is, right? I like to check in. I like to morph myself back and forth a little bit. Find how my shoulders want to align. This shoulder has scar tissue that lives under it, so it's a different shoulder than my other shoulder. And so often on this side, I will air for more release under the shoulder blade by keeping my hand here and drawing my arm bones back a little bit, and less with that arm going out straight. It really just depends, right? So it's your practice. Do what you want. We got 2 more breaths. And then we're going to come to our half moon balance. Again, whether that's inching our way in or just jumping in is between you and you, or between you and your space requirements. So sort of finding your way in. Maybe a full expanse. Lift with this hip. Oh, that leg is your rudder. You don't even need your hands sometimes. And sometimes you do. Take a big breath. All right, so we're gonna land, but before we go back to down dog, coming back to this warrior two leg shape, and then, just meandering around in here again. Oh, testing out the waters of the inner thigh again. Feels a little bit better, a little easier on the second round. All right, so coming back to down dog, and then pausing for a moment. Just notice how the body is. We're going to come down to the belly, so you can start with a plank. You can add a little extra, but you can hold it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we're going to lower down all the way to the belly. Back up a little bit. Oh. Okay. So we're going to start with some rolling cobras, and then we're going to turn it into some rolling locust. Okay, so for the cobra, I line my hands up about with my chest muscles, and I spread the hand out and press down. Now, I'm not going to use my arms to lift myself. I'm going to use my back, because this is an exercise in strengthening the muscles in my back, okay? Now, you can use your arms for your cobra. You can. No one's going to judge. Well, maybe. But it doesn't matter if they do. So we're inhaling, reaching through the legs. If I took my hands off, I'd still be able to hold myself. We're going to do it one more time. Okay. Now for the locust, I'm going to stretch my arms back. You can lace your fingers behind you if you like. I'm going to start with my backs of my hands on the floor, lift my legs, and then roll my shoulder blades into my back. Okay, and then I'm going to come down, let my shoulder blades fall over. Inhale, lift, roll the shoulder blades in, and then come down. We're going to do that one more time. Oh, I love this feeling in my upper back. So one more time. Lift, roll those shoulder blades in. Oh, and then let your legs come down, but put your elbows under you. And we're going to pause for a little sphinx here. So I'm going to take one leg and stretch it out and put it down. Other leg, stretch it out, put it down. Trying to release as best I can right there at the hip flexor. And then if it feels okay to your low back, to press up so that you get a little deeper stretch across the front of that pelvis, then you're welcome to do that. And come into the seal version. You can do more energy with the legs or less. So I'm noticing probably kind of giving myself more sensation right there at my lumbar than I'm really comfortable with. It doesn't hurt, but it felt like I was hanging in my back. So I'm going to come back to here. And we're going to take one more big breath. All right. Now, we're going to come back to either a down dog or an all fours position to step into a low lunge. So you decide which one of those is going to be better for you. I'm going to go for the more gentle route and come to all fours. Give myself a little jiggle here. Oh. And then I'm going to bring my right foot forward, right on. And this is where the blocks can come in handy. So if you'd like the blocks or you have something you're using in place of blocks, grab those. Okay. So I'm leaning my hips forward, and then I'm leaning my hips back. And if you can touch the floor and still do this, that's fine, right? You can also hold on to furniture. Like whatever you got works. Hips go forward, hips go back. And I'm just feeling out the stretch that's happening on this side for the hamstrings and on this side for the hip, right? And then I'm going to take myself to a crescent lunge. So that means I'm lifting up so that my back draws more of a crescent shape, more of a moon shape. And I'm noticing, like, am I hanging in my bones, which I am now, or can I engage a little more deeply through my abdominals and help support that part of my hip and opening, which is what I'm doing now. It's a slight difference, but maybe you can see it. All right, so I'm going to take this into a pigeon. So I'm going to take this front leg and bring it across. Okay. Now, if this pigeon is not the right pigeon for you, you can flip over on your back and do an upside down version. Okay, so I'm gonna put a little prop under there. Hi, Munchkin. How are you? Oh, she does not like to be kissed, but I like to kiss her. So, I know. It's all right. I won't kiss you again. So we're kind of holding ourselves up. Oh. Okay. Kind of finding the right amount. Now, if you want to come down to your elbows, you can do that. We're going to stay for about 30 more seconds. Oh. All right, yogis, we're going to take 2 more breaths. And then this back leg is going to come around. So if I rolled onto my back, what you would do at this point is undo the pose and then join us in a seated position. So I'm leaning as far as I can into this right side, my bent leg side, and then I'm bringing that left leg around. And then I'm going to leave my right leg bent, and I'm going to bring the left leg up on top. Now, some of you will be able to wind your foot all the way around the outside of your thigh. When I do that, my pelvis won't stay level, so I don't. I put it in the front. And then you're going to sit up tall and lean back a little bit. And we're going to rotate toward the leg. Now, I grab with my hand. You might want to put your elbow over there, okay? Get tall through your spine, and then sit up again. And so you can look out over that back shoulder. You can look out over the front shoulder. What I'm going to do today is actually move my head with my breath. So I'm going to inhale here. And then I'm going to exhale and just spin my head the other way. Inhale back to the front. And exhale and spin my neck. So I'm keeping the pressure out of my neck and letting my spine hold the twist. Hopefully you can still see what I'm up to. So we're going to do one more. And then once I get to the back here, I'm just going to unleash this twist. Okay. Oh. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, do I want to roll over my legs, jump back into chaturanga, do an up dog, do a down dog, and then step into my low lunge on the other side? Or am I just going to come to all fours or down dog and step into the lunge? And that, yogis, is up to you. So coming back to all fours is how I'm going to do this. So I can take a little moment in the cat shape. And then we're going to bring the left leg forward. And again, like once you've got your leg forward, and you might get here after the vinyasa, then we're going to ease a little bit forward and ease a little bit back. And I'm definitely more sensitive in my right hip today. So as I come forward, I can already feel, it's not going to take much to find that lunge, right? So I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to do it kind of up here because I want to try to find the spot that's just about right for this upper back. So I'm coming into this crescent shape. You can even add the arms to it if you like, or keep the arms low. Kind of noticing how the sensation is, striking you today. Maybe you're a little farther in on this side because this is the juicy side. The side that doesn't put up a fight. Take one more breath. And then we're going to take ourselves into that pigeon shape. So we're going to bring this leg around. Straighten out. And jiggle into place. Okay. And again, you might do what I'm doing, which is kind of stay a little more upright. Or you might melt down, put your elbows on the floor. You might be more active in your back leg. You might even reach back and grab that foot if you care to. And we're staying for like about another 45 seconds or so, a little longer. Sometimes, it feels really good to give myself like a little bit of a twist, just so that that front hip area that I was feeling so much sensitivity in. In this shape, it's not quite as sharp, and so I can kind of nudge in there a little bit more. Take in one more big breath. And then we're going to kind of lean a little bit. We're going to bring that back leg around. And again, if you wound up on your back, you can join us here. I'm going to leave this blanket handy because I'm going to use it later. So we're going to sit up tall, lean back, turn, and then get tall again and come all the way up. And this is where you'll nestle your arm into place, right? And then, again, you can choose this head movement with the breath, or keep your head more stationary and just hold the position and breathe. I'm going to do one more breath here. And when you get to the point where you're looking over your back shoulder, if you followed me, just pause. And then we'll unwind that whole thing. Oh. All right, yogis. So this, after we do a little movement, is my favorite part. It's time for boat pose. And our boat pose is going to help us get into Shavasana. So if you want to, you can take your boat all the way down so that it's like a stand-up paddleboard or a kayak. The legs and the torso kind of working together. Or you can do a regular boat pose. And then when your boat feels like it's time to go to shore, you can give yourself a moment to rinse your legs out or do a little happy baby. At the very least, you can give yourself a little hug. And then I'm going to use this blanket under my legs. So, kind of positioning it so that it's pretty tight against my thighs. I think I've got my foot on it, yep. Okay, because that helps my hip flexors relax. And I just stretched them out, so I'm hopeful that my low back is going to feel really good in this pose. But in the event that it doesn't, this blanket is very helpful. So tuck your shoulder blades in. Allow yourself to stretch out and relax. You might need to do like a little bit of a little finger and toe joint movement, a little jiggle. Take a deep breath, let go with an and let your body sink into the floor. Now, in the event that you and Shavasana are not that familiar with each other, that's what this is called. It's called Shavasana, which literally translates as corpse pose, but what we're really doing is giving ourselves a chance to just relax. So our nervous system has a chance to go back into a really sort of parasympathetic, relaxed state. So that if we put any of our body parts a little bit on notice, because we were stretching a little aggressively, this helps smooth that out. And it's a good reset for the nervous system. So if you're having trouble with this pose, just allow yourself to know that it's good for you. We're going to stay a little longer, but do this. Consciously relax the backs of your eyes. And let your eyes get a little deeper into your head. And relax the skin all around the temples and the brow bones and the cheekbones. And let your lips get a little softer and let the jaw release slightly.
And soften at the throat. And just pause with that meditation on keeping the face relaxed. Now don't move yet, but do notice your body. And take all of your awareness down to your fingertips and your toe tips. And then stretch them away from each other. And then relax the fingers and toes and give them a wiggle. And stretch them away from each other. And give them a wiggle. And one more time, you're going to stretch them away from each other. And then move your wrist and ankles. You do little fluid circles or just kind of a back and forth. And then we're going to stretch the arms and legs out. We're going to come back to that shape we did at the beginning, that banana. We're just going to take it for one little breath on each side. And then you're going to bring your legs in so that either your feet are rested on the floor, and you do these little windshield wipers, or you bring the knees all the way into your chest and give yourself a little hug. And then, yogis, we're going to take ourselves onto our side, or you can rock yourself up if that's your jam. I'm going to roll onto my side. And then we'll push ourselves up. And hopefully, this has been okay. And the lack of my lens did not hamper your experience too much. Thank you for joining me today for a yin-yang flow. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Namaste.